Right. Thank you for those interesting observations. What we're going to do now is listen to a service user, because at the end of the day, we are all here for... Now, being a GP, I usually say patients. In fact, when Teresa and I first talked about this, I had to say, what's a service user? But I think I probably have come now to prefer that name. And we're very privileged to have a lady here who has used the service and has very kindly given up her time to come and talk to us about the patient or the service user experience.
Thank you very much, everybody. As well as a service user, I suppose you could say I'm a narrative practitioner, because I go around using my narrative, my story, to help to inform what it's like to be at this end of the service. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my sort of background as to why I was using services in the first place. When I was sort of late teens, I first noticed that I had problems with depression. I now know retrospectively it was depression. And at the time, I went to the GP and sort of, I suppose, presented with the usual symptoms of depression, feeling low and no motivation and maybe lots of tearfulness. And one of my first I suppose, experiences was when I was given this thing called fluoxetine, or teen, or however you pronounce it. And at the time, I didn't know it was Prozac. And when I went to my GP, no mention of depression was made. And so I was still in the dark as to what was wrong with me. I felt the guilt was really intensified by that. I went away, put my trust in the doctor, and took the medication, and I didn't really take to it. It sort of zombified me anyway. Didn't seem to do too much good. I had 6 weeks of counselling intervention, and still to this day I really can't see why I was given that, because it didn't do any good. This isn't all doom and gloom, by the way. I'm just setting the context now. The counsellor was I was just spewing forth my troubles, and he was just sitting there listening but not listening, if you know what I mean. And so I thought, oh, that was a waste of time. And gradually with my life events, I was a single mum. I did my degree when I had a small child, and in early 2000, and I also have suffered from rheumatoid arthritis, and I had a very fantastic consultant, Dr. Coulton, who's sadly passed away now, and he was a brilliant rheumatologist, a brilliant human being, and he also gave me my first diagnosis, the fact that I was depressed. And then I was, all the guilt that I had for not being able to keep up with everybody, wondered why I was feeling like this. I just internalised it all as being my fault. Sort of that lessened, and it was like a burden coming off my shoulders. But I was very bemused in a way to find out that it was my rheumatologist that in fact had noticed what was really going on with me as a person. Anyway, I think I was put on more antidepressants, and I didn't take that. But I took it for a while, and then it didn't really work. And then the story goes that we're into 2004, and I was working at a busy call centre in quite an unfulfilling job. It was a small call centre, and I had troubles with my daughter, who was one of these Kevin the teenagers times 1 million, and she would go AWOL from school, etc. I had family support intervention for 6 weeks. Unfortunately, only sort of exacerbated my situation and Rose's, and just really made me feel worthless as a mother, because I was trying to put these boundaries in place. She was telling me what I already knew, but completely missed the mental health connection. And because my daughter Rosie was actually railing against that. So I had all this stress factors as well as the actual trying to work out what was going on in my head with the symptoms of anxiety and depression. And so I suppose it all came to a head. I was in St John's, which is Worcester, going about my business, and all of a sudden I felt really scared and frightened. It was an actual beginnings of a panic attack. Luckily my friend lived nearby, and she sort of recognised I wasn't feeling very well and took me in and gave me a cup of tea, and I sat with my cup of tea for half an hour without drinking it, wondering what the hell was going wrong with me. I wasn't in any fit state to contact my GP at that time, so my friend did it, and even though I see now it was probably quite an emergency really, but I was just asked to go and wait at the end of the day with the others to see a doctor as soon as possible. And I managed to get home and sort myself out, and then go to the doctor's appointment. And I remember going into the surgery thinking, I've got to keep it together now. My voice is going to be wobbly, and I make no apologies for this because I'm going to tell you something that's quite traumatic. But I do have CBT techniques now. One is to state the obvious, to offload it from me, but also just to honour the emotion and just let it pass and then carry on with my story, because I've got a message to put across to you guys, and I don't want to sort of get it all bogged down in emotion and stuff. But I think it's good that you see this anyway. So I'm in the waiting room, sitting down. I'm trying to hold it together. I'm trying to be like everybody else is. And I didn't have any knowledge of CBT then. And so I was just sitting down, concentrating really on just trying not to show any emotion, which obviously exacerbates the distress that I was feeling. So when it was my turn to go into the surgery, I sort of rushed into the surgery and I sort of went, "Doctor, please help me, I'm in so much pain." And she says, and she reached out to me and said, where is your pain? You know, why is your pain? And that was such a great sort of human contact that I had there, because my pain was honoured for a start. Although I did feel a bit weird saying I was in pain, but I couldn't think of any other word. And then, of course, I had to describe to her that it was a psychological pain. But I think, you know, the mind-body connection, I was probably in a lot of physical pain as well. And, of course, the physical symptoms of panic attack, etc. At this time, I thought I was going a bit mad because I'd never been this out of control before. Never had a panic attack before. And it was quite frightening. But her attitude right from the start, when she just reached out to me like that, and she recognised my pain, was so helpful in me trusting the doctor and listening to her advice. And she asked me a few pertinent questions. And then she contacted what was then the Psychiatric Emergency Service. And she explained that they were going to be contacting me and maybe making a home visit. And so I went home. I don't know how I got home, but I went home somehow. But I had that trust in that doctor from the way that she sort of treated me in a very humane sort of way. And so I waited for the call for the Psychiatric Emergency Service, and they called. And I couldn't understand why they were on the phone for so long. I was wondering about their phone bill, you know, why they're bothering with me. And, of course, what had been happening and what I'd been telling the doctor was that I just was basically lost the will to live, and I just wanted to be put down like horses are put down, you know, out of my misery. I'd got to the point where I was just lying on the sofa at home, and I couldn't even lift my head up sometimes, and I stopped eating, which was amazing for me because I love my food, and I also stopped sort of bothering to get a drink when I needed it. So they came and took me to, they came and talked to me and said, well, I think you ought to think about going to hospital. And I think, yeah, I'll think about that. And they said, no, actually, we mean for you to go now. So, because I had suicidal thoughts, although I was never going to carry them out, because knowing me, I would, if I did a overdose, I'd probably end up having a stomach pump. If I jumped off a building, I'd probably be paralysed but still alive, etc. You know, if I slipped my wrist, I probably wouldn't do it well enough, and you know, I'd still be here. So with my trust in my GP, I took the steps and I got into hospital. And this is where the idea of the medical model that I've been learning about was very reassuring, as it was when I was given some sort of label and diagnosis. In the hospital, I wanted them really just to give me an injection. You know, when you have surgery, they tell you to count to 10, and you count to 2 and you wake up and it's all over. I wanted an injection like that to end all the sort of suffering that I was, because I was emotionally, physically, spiritually suffering. Anyway, they did do the medical model stuff. Initially, I was in there for 3 weeks, and I was sort of left to my own devices there. And then it was the day hospital afterwards that really helped me in my recovery. And the psychiatrist I was under really did listen to me, and I persuaded her eventually along with my work with the day hospital and my brilliant key worker who empowered me, you know, to take some sort of control over what I wanted in terms of recovery. I said to my psychiatrist, please would you ask my GP to give me omega-3 and B supplements. You know, I think that would help me more than antidepressants, because they just turn me into a zombie. And I was also having CBT therapy, because I just wanted that right from the start, but I didn't realise then I wasn't emotionally strong enough to go through a course of CBT. But I was very lucky enough to go on a course of CBT, and together with the natural supplements has really sort of liberated me. And if it weren't for the cognitive behavioural therapy, which I've had for quite a long time, I don't think I would have been here, and I would have probably found some way to sort of exit. But that's basically the gist of my experience. Does anybody want to ask me any questions now? Have we got time? Yeah.
I think I'll speak on behalf of everyone there to say thank you so much for sharing that with such a big group. That must be very difficult. And I think we can see how powerful hearing the story from someone who's been on the other side is. And the bit that meant a lot to me was it's when because I mean, we can see it from the GP's point of view. You know, you've got a full surgery booked, you've got a stack of extras on the end, and this woman walks in and says she's got a terrible pain. And how lovely and how much it meant to you that the GP just didn't show. I can imagine she just connected with you. And said,
I still wonder, you know, to this day whether because I think GPs are very good about recognising people's physical pain, broken legs, etc. But when it comes to sort of psychological pain, you know, I think I really gave her a bit of a baptism of fire, really, or she just responded naturally, because I think she really did think I was in physical pain, because she asked, where did it hurt? But then I think that was a good introduction into to get the intensity of the pain I was feeling, even though it was psychological mostly. Yeah. Thank you.
Well, I found that very powerful, and it's made me think that, you know, when patients walk in, how important those first few minutes are to connect with your patient. Has anyone got any questions for Tracey?